Hello and welcome to the Business Spotlight interview series. I'm your host Sonali Nigam, and today I'm joined by Tony Reeves, Chairman and founder of Mayar Limited. Hi Tony, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, good morning, Sonali. It's great to meet you.
Morning, same here. So would you like to kick us off with a brief background as to who you are and what you do?
Yeah, thank you. So I came at this from a long military career. I was in the Royal Air Force, and I've now had 15 years in defence industry, working in a range of companies. I started my industry life as a subject matter expertise expert and a consultant to a small company. I was then employed, and I've spent some time, 2 years, in fact, in two large defence companies. And I soon learned that big companies weren't for me. I don't like big process, and I don't like, I like the agility of being in a small business. And then in 2016, my wife and I started a small company called Level 7 Expertise. Last year, we acquired a defense company called RJD Technology. We've now compressed all the operations into one organization and rebranded it to Maya. Maya is an amazing organization populated by some incredible people. We're very proud to be at the top of it.
Wow, and we are proud to have you today to hear your story completely. Having said that, Tony, what do you attribute your growth to? I mean, the successful career that you've had, the amount of experience that you hold. I mean, what do you attribute this to?
That's a good question. So I think there's a couple of things. For the first few years, we grew relatively organically, and what we found was by adding the right people to our mix at the right moment, it allowed us to grow over time. And those people tended to stay with us, particularly the associates that we've worked with, and our customers tended to stick with us, and then to keep coming back for more. So in the first 6 or 7 years, that's pretty much how we went. And then we seemed to have a trigger moment about 3 years ago where we suddenly accelerated and we doubled our headcount. And it was because we were prepared to put ourselves in a position where we were working on really tough projects. And
Yeah,
we have a great quote that we use a lot. That one of our customers says that we're the team that walk towards the fires rather than running away, which I
right.
absolutely love. And it says a lot about our team, really. And then really when we took on RJD last year, it was August 2023 that we acquired the business. And we had some incredible people that joined us with that company. It's given us the opportunity to be a little bit more bold and a little bit more innovative and pretty agile, and to see the opportunity and to try as hard as we can to deliver against the opportunities we see in the market. And for SMEs, we pride ourselves on being agile and fast and responsive, and trying to keep the governance light. Um, and that I think has fueled our ability to grow. And then the other
Yeah.
part is really around just being able to find, recruit, and retain amazing people. Our team is just incredible. And one of the things that I've said, I think our guys have said, I've kind of fed up with me saying it, but there's often in our team meetings that I feel like the most stupid person in the room because they're so talented and they're so amazing. So yeah, that's really what we're about is just creating the conditions for our people to be brilliant.
Wow, and I'm sure your team must be so happy to hear this when they will be listening this podcast. So you mentioned about team, so I'm interested to know what qualities do you look for in your employees? How do you foster a positive and a productive work environment? Because while I was checking the LinkedIn, I could see it's more like a hybrid workspace. So if you could just, talk about it in length and let us know.
Yeah, so I'll pick on the hybrid workspace first. We definitely work a hybrid model where we actually closed RJD's office that was on the south coast, because most of our center of gravity now is in the center of England and to the east and to the north. Um, we felt that forcing a work from office, particularly post COVID, just didn't suit sorts of people that we have, and we wanted to create an amazing company that was had it as DNA in its DNA, the ability to work from wherever you need to be. Now,
Yeah.
sometimes that's often on a client site. The sort of work we do requires us to be on a military site, working closely with our colleagues in
Yeah.
their environment on their IT.
Mhm.
But where we can, we allow our team to work from home, to work from an office, shared office space. We're really trying to give them the infrastructure and the tools for them to be able to do their work wherever they would need to be, rather than necessarily being forced into the office. So that's one thing.
Yeah.
Um, we recruit very strongly on culture and values, and that having the right sort of person. We can train for skills. It's great when those things overlap, where they're strong cultural capability in terms of how they mesh with us and how they mesh with our customers.
Yeah.
That's a really important point. But each of our recruits, and we have grown from 5 to 11 employees over the last year, so we've doubled our headcount. Each one of those, I, as the business owner, took a really strong look at them and decided, first of all, are they a good fit for us in terms of their moral compass, their integrity, their approach to their work, and how they come across, and are they going to fit with our team? And I'm really pleased to say that every single one of them has been a success. I'm really pleased about how we've gone there. So we absolutely focus on culture and values and ethos, and skills and capability and experience and background and training. Those are all relevant, but we can help people upskill. We can't
Yeah.
change their ethos and moral compass. So
Of course.
that's a really strong thing.
Wow. I mean, I'm awestruck because I mean, the way that you hire people, the way the things that you look for in people is commendable. And so, what would you say are the biggest learning as the owner of the business running successfully? What have been your biggest learning, if we can
Mm.
ask that?
Yeah, I think some of it relates back to the people in the when you've got extremely talented intellectual and analytical mindsets at
Yeah.
play in your organization, you have to be really clear about what you're trying to achieve, because they all want to know why, and they want to
Hmm.
know what's happening, why is that happening, who is this, and all those sorts of things, really valid questions. And when you recruit such amazing people, the questions are hard to answer. Sometimes they're very very difficult for us directors to come up with an answer other than, this feels like the right approach, this feels like the right direction of travel. We're trying to create a strategy.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really important thing, and I've learned so much over the last year. Um, Level 7 expertise had only 2 employees, and we had a range of associates. Now with my art, we have 11 employees, and of course our associates are really tight to us as well. Um, but it's that sense of understanding what I'm saying and how I'm saying it, and where I think we're taking the business, and
Yeah.
how that makes sense to people, and how to try and understand, trying to harness them in the best way possible to keep driving the business forwards and to grow. For us as an SME, if we stand still, we're going to die. And so we absolutely cannot have that. And when we acquired RJD last year, we were very, very clear on, we weren't going to just take this on to be a cottage industry to sort of potter along for a couple of years. This
Hmm.
was deliberately an acquisition focused on, okay, we've got an opportunity to create something brilliant, but we have
Hmm.
to commit, and we have to be able to drive that forward. So there is a strong, there's a people component to the learning. There's clearly, I'm learning every day, how to make sure we're compliant, how to ensure that our GDPR regulations are in place properly, and things that I haven't really had to think about too much before, because we were a much
Yeah.
more lightweight business.
Yeah.
Um, and our commitment to our people, learning what our commitment actually means, and understanding what we can expect back from them. There's so much of the people component to this. It's really
Yeah.
something. There's a whole load of other things. I mean, more structural and organizational and process driven things. Understanding what it takes to get opportunities from zero through to a contract. Um, Understanding how to work with bigger organizations and what their behaviors might look like.
Hmm.
Um, we're a very small fish in a very big pond in defense, and we aspire to work outside defense as well. Um, but understanding what a strong relationship looks like between a
Hmm.
very big organization and a very small SME, and what we can expect of that relationship and what they can expect of us.
Yeah.
And sometimes that can be imbalanced, in that it's easy for us to expect too much, but it's also easy for them for the bigger organizations to misunderstand our value and to impact the relationship by an inadvertent behavior. And watching out for those things, it's really interesting to learn not only what to look out for, but also how is best to react. And what do you do if something you don't like occurs, and how do you respond to that? And I think we're still working out what, on a case by case basis, what works. So much learning, and we pride ourselves on being a learning organization, and I try and learn every day. Um, it's a constant journey of education for me, and I'm hoping that the rest of our team feel the same way.
Wow. So constant learning and basically it's an ongoing process for you is what I could understand. And yes, you have had shared, some interesting facts which are literally, that are important factors for the industry like yours. So completely with you on that. So we talked about, biggest learning. I'm sure during this journey, there must be some challenges that you face. So
Mm,
what are the challenges or what were the challenges that you faced or are facing currently? Uh, can you talk about this, Tony, in length and let us know about that?
sure. So I think when we took on RJD last year and we looked at the breadth of what we were doing across the business, there was an immediate challenge in that our aperture was actually really wide. And even though we were a small business, we were doing an awful lot. And it was probably fair that there weren't many people across the entire portfolio that understood what we did. And one of the biggest challenges is trying to refine that down into, okay, what are we really good at? What do we do for our customers, and what can we do? And those two things aren't necessarily the same. And then how do we sell that? And how do we then ensure that all of our team have a
Yeah,
good level of understanding? And that's been a journey, where we do have teams that work in some isolation because of the nature of what they do and where they work, and helping them stay up to date with some of the other events across the business in
yeah,
more and more open for it. That's a challenge. I think our communication structure is much improved, but there's certainly a learning for me in terms of how to communicate to a dispersed team and how to keep everybody aligned to the business goals, how to set those goals in a way that makes sense to
to
all the team
everyone.
members as well.
Hmm.
That's definitely a feature. So certainly around comms has been a challenge. There are a lot of external factors at the moment. In the UK, there's a strategic defence review going on. We've just had a change of government. There was a long pause, um, whilst in the run up to the election and then afterwards, where a lot of defence contracts were either paused or stopped. There were certainly controls on research. So almost all extramural research was ceased or postponed,
Yeah,
by the UK MOD,
yeah,
which has a big impact. So again, for an SME with a pipeline, where essentially a third of that pipeline was impacted by that decision, that's a real challenge. And um, and filling that in with other work, and not having people on the bench and so on. And it's a feature of all business where contracts come and go, and you try and do your best, but sometimes some things are outside your control.
yeah,
But such a seismic event was difficult. Essentially, all of the research work that we were doing, that we were being paid for, ceased, and we found ways of continuing the research threads that we're doing, but a lot of it is on our own money. So, that's certainly difficult. Um, and I think there's a greater issue here in that the way that the government thinks SMEs can work with government departments isn't really very good at the moment. They think that there's 30 odd percent, 35% of work being passed out to SMEs. But a lot of those frameworks are driven and operated by large defense prime contractors,
yeah,
which which can have a negative effect in that, firstly, there's a cost implication to the government. And secondly, you as an SME, your work is always filtered through someone else,
yeah,
and very rarely do you have a direct relationship. And I think I just don't think that's the right way of doing business. I think the SME ecosystem and the infrastructure that supports us in the UK and across the world, but
yeah,
certainly in my experience in the UK, the SME ecosystem is enormously strong in terms of the capabilities of the SMEs within it.
Yeah.
But I think that the frameworks and the way that government does business with SMEs hold us back. And
Hmm.
often these frameworks don't really do anything for the government other than add cost and slow things down. We could be doing more. We could be doing
Hmm.
things better. We could be more agile. We could be faster. We could be more effective. We could
Hmm.
help the government's aims if a lot of those shackles were removed. Now, there is another challenge with that. The flip side is that the government just does not have the commercial horsepower. The
Yeah.
people work with every single SME separately. So we need to try and find a way to break that paradigm. But right now, the way it works, it is really inefficient and it could be so much better. And it feels like SMEs are boxed in and constrained. Whereas actually, if we really aspire to be an innovative, fast-moving, effective nation, then we have to find ways of unshackling the power of the SME.
In my view, the challenges that you talked about were more to do with the external factors than the internal. That's what I felt. I mean, of course, my viewers are there listening. They are better judge. But again, I'm just listening to you, the way that you have groomed yourself, the way the industry has groomed, and the way that you're looking to grow as well. Now, can I quickly check? So, while you have this professional life, so how do you balance? I mean, strike that perfect balance between the
Mm.
personal life demands while running a business. I mean, how
Yeah,
do you do that?
it's tricky. The first thing I'll say is I don't think I do it very well. Um, and striking a balance, I think, is really tough. And it's almost like the old adage of balancing a marble on a bent piece of metal. You know, you're never going to get it settled. It'll never be perfect. It'll always be moving.
Yeah.
So the sorts of things I do, I try. We participate in park run every week, and that's something that my wife and I both do. We're reasonably fit and active. Um, but that's something that is in our diary. Every Saturday we go to park run. It's either our local one or we tour and we go and experience new places. 2 weeks ago we were in Berlin for the Germany Unity Day and for the weekend that followed, and we had a lovely time. It was really great, and it was like a
Mhm.
party. It was really really good. So we meet new people and we experience those things, and we try and block out that time to be away from work. Um, our There is an office of our company essentially tacked onto the end of our house.
Yeah.
And one thing that we have done deliberately to try and isolate ourselves from work is we now have a very secure locking system on the office, and that's partly our information protection and data protection issue as well. But we now very clearly close and lock the office at the end of what we think is the working days to stop ourselves going back in and carry on working. So we try and sort of isolate ourselves, and
Yes.
it's difficult when it's so accessible. And in today's digital age, when you're always on and you can always look at your phone and you can always check your emails, you have to try and create an insulation layer between you and work at times,
Yeah.
and then be really clear about when you're off, you're off.
Yeah.
Um, so there's that. Um, One of the things we've done recently is to recruit a managing director. So you might have seen in my LinkedIn profile that I've switched from being managing director to chairman of the board.
Yes.
Um, so the MD has come in and is doing a great job straight off the bat. And that's given me more freedom to try and set some more of those boundaries, but also to focus on helping grow the business for the future and allowing him to take on the running the business aspect. So, all of those things contribute. We have a reasonable balance. It could be better, but I think that's just the way I describe ourselves is we're a startup that's 1 year old, 5 history. And that's kind of how we feel, and where a startup's concerned, you can't take your foot off the pedal. You have to be on, you have to be working evenings and weekends and so on, because that's just part of what you have to do to get it up and running and get it working well. But we try.
No, I can see the efforts are out there, and I am taking this locking strategy with me after this podcast. Definitely to lock the if I'm on off, I am on off. I'm not going to check my emails or check my laptop. So definitely, thank you so much. That was so good and inspirational for answering that. I'm sure our audience have learned and picked so many things. Is there any closing remark before we wrap up, Tony? Anything that you would
Uh,
like our audience
yeah.
to?
If that's okay, I've got one thing, and it's a bit of an evangelical thing. It's a bit of a sort of soapbox me in that I feel um, there's a difference between an entrepreneur and other people that will look at entrepreneurs with some jealousy. And you do see this. You see
Yeah.
the people that are willing to take the risk and the people that look on and say, well, I could do that. And fundamental to that decision or to that difference is that you're willing to start. And I'll quote. So I run a fair bit, but Eliud Kipchoge, who's was the world champion marathon runner, ran London Marathon multiple times. You know, and he said something that I use in business all the time, and it really sticks with me. And he said what you have to do is you have to start and then keep going and then you finish. Don't worry about the time, but the most important thing is to start. The most important thing here is that you start, and it's that decision and commitment to start something and then to commit to following it through. And that defines entrepreneurs, business owners, independent consultants, all those people that are willing to take that extra step. And it's not for everybody. The majority of people that I've met, aren't open to that risk, because it is risky. It does come with
Of course.
downsides as well as upsides.
Of
But
course.
it's important that we recognize that entrepreneurs are those that are willing to take that step. And the risk profile is such that we should look after our entrepreneurs, and we should do well to try and find platforms and just like this, and I'm grateful to you for allowing me the opportunity to speak, um, because it's really important that we find ways of allowing entrepreneurs and spirited people and people with something, I think, with some value and some things to say,
Yeah.
to allow us to expose those, and hopefully it will help one or two people in your network.
Tony, the pleasure is all mine because we get to learn a lot from you. And of course, my audience does as well. And so I have got my headline definitely, which is just get started. So that was amazing. Thank you so, so much for your time today, Tony. It was great meeting you, learning more about your journey. To everyone watching, I look forward to see you in next episode. Thank you.